Welcome back, friends. Tonight we tumble back through time, past the modern noise and city lights, into a world of roaring crowds, clanging swords and dusty amphitheatres. You open your eyes to the sour tang of sweat, smoke and sewage. A rat scurries across the cracked tile floor. You try to sit up, but your limbs feel heavy like you've been hit by a cart. Outside you hear shouting in Latin. A baby wails, pots clatter. Your mouth tastes like stale lentils and your tunic, if you can call this rough sack a tunic, is crusted with something that is probably blood, hopefully not yours. You're in ancient Rome. Not postcard Rome, not movie Rome, but the real grimy, no toilet paper, no women's rights version. And here's the kicker, you're not just in Rome, you're a female gladiator. Yeah, that's a thing. But probably not for long, because, brace yourself, you probably won't survive this. So before you get too comfortable, hit like and subscribe, but only if I've earned it. No pressure, no hard feelings, and hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. Always curious where and when you're listening from. Now go ahead and dim the lights, maybe curl up with a blanket, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You don't remember how you got here, but your wrists are raw from rope. There's a dull ache in your ribs and the unmistakable sensation that someone used your body to mop a tavern floor. The room smells like mouldy bread and despair. This is an insula, a cramped apartment building packed with Rome's poorest. Except you're not poor, you're property. A man with a crooked nose and one eyebrow grunts at you. He's your lanista, a trainer, owner and general tyrant. To him, you're not a person, you're meat with legs. His name is Marcus, and he already looks annoyed that you're not dead yet. You, girl, up, he growls, kicking a bucket of slop toward you. Eat. You fight in 5 days. Fight? You try to ask what that means, but your Latin is, well, let's call it emerging. He snorts, spits on the floor and stalks off. Outside, the sun blasts the alley like it's trying to cook the stones. You stagger after Marcus, every muscle objecting. He leads you through twisting streets where beggars shout, vendors bark about honey cakes, and a goat eats a tunic right off a washing line. Roman life is bustling, chaotic, and absolutely indifferent to your existence. Finally you reach a large gate. It creaks open to reveal a sand-filled courtyard. Men and women, some shirtless, some armoured, are sparring, grunting, bleeding. One of them is missing a few fingers. Another has a face tattoo of a scorpion. You realise they're all gladiators. Fresh meat, Marcus announces, shoving you into the yard. Everyone stops and stares. Now, here's your first fun historical fact. Female gladiators were rare, but real. Called gladiatrices, they weren't exactly welcome. Rome didn't like women with swords. Emperors saw it as a novelty, or worse, an embarrassment. One poet joked that female fighters were just actresses with knives. Others believed they were morally corrupt, or signs that the empire was slipping into chaos. Because, you know, a woman doing squats with a trident might just be the end of civilization. The others argue like you're either dinner or competition, maybe both. A tall Thracian woman named Vibia snorts and goes back to slashing at a dummy stuffed with straw. She's ripped. You, on the other hand, just realised your sandals are held together with string and hope. Marcus throws a wooden practice sword at your feet. Pick it up, he says. We see if you die quick. You bend to lift it. It's heavier than you expect. The balance is all wrong. You try to stand straight and hold it like you've seen in movies, but the others burst out laughing. You swing anyway. It's less epic warrior and more tipsy broom dance. One of the men, a Gaul with arms the size of wine barrels, takes pity on you. Hold it like this, he says, guiding your grip, or it hit your own foot. Again. And thus begins your training, which to be honest is less about getting strong and more about not dying while getting strong. You're expected to train for hours, sleep on straw, and wake up sore in places you didn't know had muscles. Your legs tremble just standing, your shoulders burn, and your sword form? Well, let's just say no one's calling you Xena. By day 3 you've learned to block a blow without flinching, mostly. You've also learned that the wooden sword can still break a nose, yours specifically. The blood was mostly dry by nightfall. Now here's a quirky tidbit. Some female gladiators reportedly trained topless. Not for function, just spectacle. The Romans loved mixing violence and voyeurism. Even stranger, there's a record of a female gladiator match held at midnight, possibly as a novelty act. Because what screams cultural refinement like midnight blood sport under torchlight? You're not there yet. You're still getting laughed at when your sword gets stuck in the sand. At night, you huddle in a corner of the ludus, too tired to cry. Someone hands you a crust of bread. You don't ask where they got it. You just eat. Every bite tastes like grit, but hunger overrides dignity. "Don't worry," whispers a voice in the dark. It's Vibia. She's leaning against the wall, arms crossed. You either get better or you don't have to worry long. Comforting. You learn fast that strength isn't just muscles, it's survival. You start mimicking the others, how they move, how they breathe before a strike. You practice alone after lights out, swinging at shadows. Slowly, your body remembers the rhythm, but there's a problem. Your existence is technically illegal. Emperor Septimius Severus banned female gladiators around 200 CE. Some say it was because of moral panic. Others argue it was crowd control. Historians still argue whether the ban was ever truly enforced or just ignored by corrupt Lannistas looking for novelty acts. Either way, you're not a warrior. You're a loophole, and loopholes don't last long in Rome. The night before your first match, you lie awake on the straw, staring at a ceiling where spiders do acrobatics better than you. The moonlight spills through the bars on your window. Somewhere in the distance, a lion roars. Closer by, a man sobs softly. You wonder if he's crying for home, for freedom, or just because someone stole his sandals. You grip your training sword and whisper the names of every move you've learned. Then you whisper your own name, because you're terrified you'll forget it tomorrow, because tomorrow you step into the arena. The sun rises like it's got a personal grudge, baking the city before the birds even finish their gossip. You barely sleep, maybe caught 20 minutes curled up like a shrimp. Your arms ache, your stomach growls like a caged wolf, and your brain, your brain is screaming one word on repeat. Why? But there's no time for panic. Marcus is already barking orders, stomping around the ludus like someone gave him too much vinegar in his wine. Up! Stretch! Don't embarrass me or I feed you to the lions myself. You line up in the yard with the others. A wiry man named Rufio, missing 2 fingers but still weirdly fussed with a sword, offers you a nod of solidarity. You nod back, trying to seem calm. Meanwhile, your guts are staging a full-scale rebellion. Training today doesn't feel like training. It feels like a test. Marcus circles the group like a very angry, very sweaty vulture, occasionally whacking someone with a stick. Move your feet. You call that a block? You want to die bent over like a cow? You try to keep your stance wide, your guard up, your face neutral. Inside, you're frantically reviewing every tip you've learned. Don't lock your elbows. Step into the swing. Always watch the opponent's chest, not their eyes. Especially if they have nice eyes. Total distraction. Then, Marcus calls your name. Well, sort of your name. He butchers it into something vaguely sneeze-like. You step forward. He tosses you a different sword. Wood again, but longer, heavier. This time, you're paired against Vibia. She gives you a small, wicked smile. Try not to cry. The match begins. You swing, she dodges. You block, she sweeps your legs. You fall, hard on your back and taste dust. Laughter erupts from the circle. She doesn't strike again. She just waits. You scramble up panting. This time, you don't go for a wild swing. You keep your guard tight. She feints left, then actually goes left. Trickster. You catch her blade, redirect it. Her eyebrows rise slightly. Is that respect? But you're not winning. You're just surviving longer than expected, and that in this world is worth something. Now here's your historical tidbit of the day. Gladiators didn't just train for strength. They trained for style. You had to be dramatic, memorable. The Roman audience wanted blood, yes, but they also wanted a show. Flourishes, footwork, even trash talk were part of the act. Some fighters had stage names like Achillea the Amazon or Etrusilla the Blade. You'll be lucky if they spell your name right on the death scroll. Back to the yard. After 5 minutes of clashing, dodging and nearly getting brained by Vibia's elbow, Marcus calls it off. Better, he grunts. Not good, but better. You limp back to the line with sweat dripping down your spine and the taste of iron in your mouth. Your knees are shaking, but you didn't cry, so small victories. The rest of the morning is more of the same. Blocking drills, endurance sprints, balance exercises on planks. At one point, someone throws a chicken into the yard just to see who can catch it while armed. No one does. The chicken wins. You take your lunch squatting in the corner, gnawing on what might be barley bread. It's dry enough to exfoliate your tongue. Nearby, 2 veterans are arguing about whether Caligula really made his horse a senator. He didn't, one mutters. He just said it to insult the Senate. You blink. Wait, did they just fact-check ancient gossip? Turns out even gladiators had opinions about history. They talk about battles, emperors, conquests and scandals like people today talk about reality shows. Nero was a drama queen, someone scoffs. The man played the lyre while Rome burned. At least pretend to be surprised. But all the talk, the banter, the flippant jokes, it's a mask. Underneath it is fear. Everyone knows the arena doesn't care how funny you are. It just wants blood. After lunch, you're marched into a different room. One with wooden mannequins and painted targets on the walls. Today's focus, precision. Hit the red spot, Marcus says. No slashy dancing, control, clean lines. You practice slicing at straw dummies until your arms throb. One swing misses the mark entirely and sends your sword flying. It lands in a basket of laundry, startling a cat who proceeds to hiss like you personally insulted her ancestors. Later, as you're retrieving the weapon and apologising to the cat, an older gladiator, Crixus, approaches. Don't try to impress Marcus, he says quietly. He doesn't want you famous. He wants you obedient. This sticks with you. See, female gladiators weren't just rare. They were often a form of punishment or humiliation. Some came from noble families who'd fallen from grace. Others were enslaved for speaking out or just being inconvenient. You, apparently, were someone's idea of a joke or a bet gone wrong. In fact, one of the only surviving images of a female gladiator carved on a piece of marble shows a woman named Amazonia. She's raising her hand in salute, victorious. It's unclear if she lived past that moment. The carving ends where her story does. Now here's something up for debate. Historians still argue whether female gladiator matches were purely symbolic rituals or real, brutal fights. Some evidence suggests it was all for show with dulled weapons and scripted outcomes. Others argue the fights were just as lethal, just more niche. You're hoping for symbolic, but with the way Marcus eyes you, probably not. As dusk settles, you're ordered to scrub the arena floor. Blood from earlier matches cross the sand. You gag more than once. But it's strangely meditative, like erasing someone else's nightmare so you can have your turn tomorrow. After clean-up, you get a single boiled egg as your dinner. Luxury. You savour every bite while sitting next to Vibia, who's sharpening her blade with a look that says, "Don't interrupt." She eventually glances at you. "You learn fast," she mutters. "Too bad that just means they throw you in sooner." You nod, swallowing the last of your egg. Your fingers smell like rust and ash. Your muscles hum with exhaustion. Above, stars pierce the Roman sky. Same constellations you know today, but dimmer through the haze of cook fires and candle smoke. And for a moment, just a flicker, you think, maybe you could survive this. Maybe. You wake to shouting and the slap of sandals on stone. The city never truly sleeps, and neither do you. Not deeply. Just a few hours of semi-conscious drifting before the next round of "you might die today" kicks off. By now you've accepted that rest is a luxury, not a right. Marcus storms into the sleeping quarters, smelling like old onions and anger. "Up! We go to the Forum!" "The Forum? That's not the arena." You're shoved into a cart with a few other fighters, including Vibia and a scrawny man called Simo who coughs more than he breathes. You cling to the edge of the rickety cart as it jerks forward over cobblestones, bouncing past vendors selling figs, amulets, and what looks like roasted dormice on a stick. No thank you. The city is a patchwork of marble, sweat and sewage. The rich drift through shaded porticos in fine linen, while the poor fight over spilled lentils. You pass temples, shrines, and at least 3 statues of the same emperor looking like he's solving long division. Finally, you arrive at your destination, a shady corner of the forum where a wooden stage has been built. There are already people gathering, fanning themselves with folded parchment and placing bets. Wait, bets? Marcus turns to you and grins. His teeth are somehow more yellow than his tunic. This is where we sell the fights. Welcome to the arena economy, where your life is a commodity, your blood has a price tag, and sponsors treat you like a fantasy football pick. You're paraded up onto the stage. People stare, a few laugh, a few men point and murmur, nudging each other with looks you don't like. One woman scowls at you like she smells something foul. Then the announcer reads your name. Well, your new name. Apparently you've been rebranded. Bellona Minor. Bellona, after the Roman goddess of war. Minor, as in the discount version. Bellona Minor, fresh from the provinces, unbroken, untested, the announcer cries. Some people cheer, a few boo. One man shouts, "She looks like she'd cry if you threw a grape." You grit your teeth, because this isn't just humiliating, it's business. See, Gladiators had sponsors. Think of them like sports team owners, only with more togas and less health insurance. Sponsors paid for matches, chose fighters, and sometimes even fixed results. They could make or break your future, and they're all watching you now. One sponsor in particular, a plump jewel-draped man with the neck of a turtle, points at you. "Put her against Felix," he says. "If she bleeds well, I'll buy her contract." You blink. Buy? Turns out you're not just fighting. You're for sale, like fruit or pottery. This wasn't in your dream journal. Back in the Ludus, Marcus is practically drooling at the offer. If Turtleneck Guy, whose name is apparently Flavius, buys you, Marcus gets a tidy sum. And you just get a new owner. Flavius may be richer, but word is he once made a man fight a wild boar blindfolded for a dinner party. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. You're summoned to the atrium that evening to meet with Flavius. His toga is embroidered with tiny golden grapes. He offers you a dried fig like it's a diplomatic gesture. You take it. It's surprisingly chewy. "You look better dirty," he says. "Keep that. The crowd likes dirty." Flavius then explains how he sees your brand. The virago angle. You're to be presented as a barbarian princess, captured in war and forced to fight for her freedom. "Very exotic," he says. "Tragic, but spicy." He's planning your narrative, like a Roman PR manager. And here's your historical fact. Gladiators weren't just fighters. They were characters. Their backstories, real or fabricated, added flavour. Were you a noblewoman fallen from grace? A fierce Amazon from beyond the Rhine? A disgraced priestess forced to atone through combat? Doesn't matter what's true. What matters is what sells. And Flavius intends to sell you hard. He has you pose for a sculptor. Yes, mid-sword swing, hair wild, eyes defiant. The sculptor sighs a lot. You're no Venus, but apparently your cheekbones are aggressively symmetrical. And here's a quirky tidbit. Gladiator merch was real. Oil lamps, figurines, graffiti, all bearing the names and likenesses of popular fighters. You could be immortalised in clay as a candle holder. Every girl's dream. Still, the power imbalance is painfully clear. You have no say in your name, your costume, or your schedule. If Flavius wants you to fight a bear while singing, you're expected to say, "Which key?" Vibia catches your expression as you return to the training yard. "New owner?" she asks. You nod. "Better than Marcus?" You think about it. Turtleneck versus onion breath. It's a coin toss. You train harder that week. Something's shifted. You're no longer invisible. People notice your swings. Marcus no longer calls you useless. Flavius stops by the Ludus to watch you spar, sometimes bringing friends. You're entertainment now, even outside the arena, and yet the stakes keep rising. You learn about sin mission matches, fights with no chance of mercy, no surrender, no sparing, usually reserved for criminals or special events. You pray you're not special. At dinner one night, Rufio leans close. Word is your debut's going to be a crowd pleaser. Big festival, Emperor's birthday. That means lions, maybe fire tricks. You swallow your barley gruel. It's lumpy, as usual. The idea of fire tricks makes it taste worse. Then he adds, they want a spectacle. Something different. You know what that means? You're the different. Because, let's be honest, female gladiators weren't fighting in droves. You're a novelty, a curiosity, like a talking dog or a juggling monkey. And novelties? They don't get on cause. That night you dream of sand, endless sand, and a shadow that keeps circling always just behind you. In the dream you turn, but there's no one there. You're pulled from sleep by the clatter of metal, someone dropping a helmet in the hallway, and your first thought is, please don't let today be armour day. Spoiler, it is. Flavius, in all his glittery, grape-themed glory, has commissioned a new set of gear for you. A proper look for the goddess of war, he declares, strutting into the ludus like he's blessing everyone with his presence. He's trailed by 2 assistants carrying bundles wrapped in cloth, and the kind of smugness only someone with too many coins and too few hobbies can maintain. You're summoned like a servant at a wedding, presented with the gift in the middle of the training yard as everyone watches. The bundles open with great drama to reveal your new outfit. Let's break it down. You get a helmet, not a sleek Corinthian piece like the ones you've seen in the marble busts, but more like someone tried to merge a flower vase with a bird cage. The plume is dyed purple. Purple. You look like a confused eggplant. Then comes the breastplate. You lift it. It's not designed for function. It's designed for flair, meaning it's moulded, curved, and absurdly impractical. The metal digs into your ribs. It's clearly made by someone who thinks armour should accentuate. The greaves, they're 2 different lengths. Your knees will never forgive you. And the final insult? The shield. It's tiny, comically tiny, like a dinner plate with a handle. You raise it experimentally and hear someone behind you snort. Is that to swat flies? Vibia mutters. Still, you're not given a choice. You're to fight in this get-up, in character. Now here's your historical reality check. Most female gladiators weren't equipped the same way as their male counterparts. In fact, much of the gear was ill-fitting or ceremonial. Some scholars believe they were intentionally under-armoured to heighten the danger, or worse, the spectacle. After all, what's more exciting to a bloodthirsty crowd than vulnerability? And here's your quirky tidbit. There's a theory, unproven but deliciously strange, that some female fighters were oiled up before matches for shininess, because apparently nothing screams deathmatch like a well-moisturised opponent. Back in the yard, you practice moving in your new kit. It's not easy. The helmet restricts your vision, the breastplate catches on your own elbow when you swing, and the greaves slide around unless you walk like a duck. Marcus watches you fumble and sneers. Good. If you die, it's dramatic. He's not joking. Later, Vibia helps adjust the straps on your chest armour. You're going to have to fight smarter, she says. Forget brute force. Use speed, balance, and never trust that shield. You nod, grateful. Not because you trust her. No one trusts anyone here. But because the advice is good. And in the arena, good advice is rarer than hot water. That evening, Flavius returns. He wants to test the look under torchlight. Yes, really. You're paraded like a mannequin through the arena after dark. Flames flicker across your armour. He hums approvingly. Very dramatic, he says. The light catches the dents. Beautiful. You resist the urge to throw your tiny shield at his face. The next day is drills. Not for combat. No, now it's performance. You're taught how to enter the arena, how to hold your sword for maximum visual impact, where to pause for the audience to cheer or jeer. You're told to smile a little, just a little, enough to look human, not enough to seem weak. It's bizarre. You're not training to fight anymore. You're training to appear like someone who fights. This brings us to the Roman obsession with theatrics. The arena was more than a place to die. It was a place to perform. Even the moment of death was choreographed. Some gladiators were trained to fall in a certain way, arms outstretched and neck exposed, so their killer could deliver the final blow with flair. And here's the scholarly debate of the day. Historians still argue whether female gladiators were expected to perform these same rituals. Some evidence suggests they were just as theatrical. Others think their fights were more raw, less polished. You ask Marcus, quietly, what happens if you refuse to play along. He stares at you. You don't, or you vanish. Great. The next morning you get 1 hour with a real sword. Not wood, not dulled, real. Heavy, sharp, lethal. Your fingers tremble as you hold it. This one isn't for practice, it's for your debut. Don't chip it, Marcus grunts. It's borrowed. You practice swings with care, feeling the balance shift. It's better than the training ones, more responsive. It sings when it slices the air. You think briefly, I could win with this. But then your breastplate pinches your side again, and the dream evaporates. That night you sneak out to the yard after curfew. You move through the sand, barefoot, practicing steps and blocks in the moonlight. You imagine how your opponent might strike. You adjust, shift weight. You try a leap and roll move someone called Felix once used. You land hard and eat dirt. From the shadows you hear someone chuckle. It's Rufio. He tosses you a skin of water. You're either getting better or getting weird. Maybe both, you reply, wiping your mouth. He sits on the edge of the practice circle. You remind me of a girl I fought once in Antioch. She used her shield like a drum, banged it to mess with my rhythm, drove me nuts. You glance at your toy-sized shield. Any chance she's still alive? He shakes his head. She won, but she bowed too slow. And just like that, the moment darkens. Because in this world, the enemy isn't just your opponent. It's the crowd, the sponsors, the rules you don't even know until you break them. Back in your cell, you stare at the ceiling and whisper to yourself, don't bow too slow, don't trip on your own greaves, don't forget to smile, and maybe, just maybe, don't die. The morning starts with a rat biting your toe. Honestly, it's becoming harder to tell what's worse, the possibility of death by trident or the daily indignities of being a rising star in ancient Rome. You shake it off, literally, and shoo the rat away with your sandal. It glares at you like you woke it up. Rome, ladies and gentlemen. Breakfast is the usual. Porridge that tastes faintly of sawdust and desperation. Someone left a prune in yours today. A treat. A trap. Either way, you eat it. Today's not about fighting. Today's about waiting. You've been scheduled to appear in a Venatio, a morning show where animals are brought into the arena and either displayed, hunted, or occasionally interact with gladiators. You're not meant to fight them yet. It's just to show the crowd you exist. Warm them up like the world's most unfortunate opening act. But before the event, you're granted a few hours of rest. Actual, unsupervised rest. You take the chance to wander the Ludus compound, which is like a mix between a prison yard and a dysfunctional summer camp. Everyone's bruised, no one's smiling. You find a shady corner and sit. Vibia joins you, lowering herself slowly like every joint has an opinion. You ready for tomorrow? She asks. No? She nods. Good. Means you're not an idiot. You both sit in silence for a bit, listening to the city hum beyond the walls. Then the gossip starts to drift in. Did you hear about Cassia? Throat cut, mid-bow. They say her opponent was her sister. Not confirmed. Might have been theatre. The line between performance and punishment blurs more each day. Some of these fighters are volunteers, but most are not. You? Definitely not. No one ever asked you what you wanted. Which brings us to today's central theme, the moments in between the blood. Because when you're not fighting, you're existing, and that's its own battle. You get one basin of water every 3 days, enough to bathe awkwardly in a corner with a rag. Soap? Optional. Deodorant? Not invented. You've started rubbing crushed rosemary on your armpits just to trick yourself into feeling clean. Clothing? One tunic, slightly less itchy than sandpaper. You've tied it at the waist with a fraying rope. It's not cute, it's not even functional, but it's what you've got. Sleep, interrupted by snoring, nightmares, or someone weeping quietly in the next room. Sometimes, all three. And food? Well, let's talk about lunch. Lunch today is a boiled cabbage leaf and something suspiciously crunchy that might have once been a beetle. Protein, right? You eat with the others under a tarp stretched across the yard. It's hot, and the shade only traps the smell. Sweat, steel, wet linen. You've stopped noticing it. Sort of. There's a pecking order here, and you're somewhere in the middle now. The new recruits look at you the way you looked at Vibia a week ago, with dread and a weird, desperate hope. One of them, a girl maybe 15, asks you quietly, "What's the trick to staying alive?" You consider your answer. Keep your mouth shut, watch everyone, and don't trust food that smells like vinegar. She nods like you've just handed her a sacred scroll. And now for your quirky tidbit. There were rumours among the gladiators that certain helmets were cursed. Helmets that had been worn by too many losers. Helmets that liked the taste of their wearer's blood. Silly? Maybe. But try being handed one before a match and not flinching. Speaking of curses, there's a tale going around about a monkey ghost haunting the Ludus. Apparently a former trainer kept a pet monkey named Clavius, who was accidentally trampled during a riotous match. Now his tiny screeching spirit haunts the rafters, knocking down tools and stealing olives. People swear he's real. You haven't seen Clavius, but you've definitely heard something in the ceiling. After lunch, you're herded into the grooming area. For show purposes, obviously. Your hair is brushed violently by a woman named Lycia, who seems to be permanently angry at everyone's scalp. She braids your hair into a crown, shoves a bit of gold thread through it, and dabs something pungent behind your ears. For the animals, she says flatly. Right, for the animals. Soon after, you're marched into the holding tunnel beneath the arena. It's darker than you expect. The walls drip. The air is thick. Somewhere above, a crowd murmurs, the slow build of an audience waiting to be entertained. You shift your weight from one foot to the other, trying not to think about how your sandals are already soaked in something you hope is just water. A guard pulls back the gate. Time to smile, Bologna Minor. You walk out into sunlight so bright it hits like a slap. The crowd gasps, not at you, but at the massive cage being wheeled in. Inside, a bear, the size of a chariot. It yawns. The sound alone makes your knees go soft. Thankfully, you're not meant to fight it. You're here to pose, walk in a circle, and wave a tiny dagger while the announcer shouts things like, "Will she survive tomorrow? Place your bets." Some of the audience cheers. A few whistle. One child throws a peach pit at your foot. You wave. Inside, you're screaming. Back inside, you're dripping sweat. The others watch as you're ushered in. Rufio raises an eyebrow. Still got all your parts? Mostly. Then it was a good day. You sit alone that night, scribbling marks on the stone floor. Your way of tracking time. 5 scratches now. 5 days in the Ludus. 5 days since you woke up as someone else's property. Tomorrow is match day. You think about the girl who asked for survival tips, about Vibia, about cursed helmets and ghost monkeys and Flavius with his gold-threaded toga. You whisper the list again. Keep your mouth shut. Watch everyone. Don't trust vinegar. And never bow too slow. The air smells like sweat, incense, and blood before you even reach the arena. There's not a smell you forget. It lives in the walls. It clings to your skin, slips into your mouth, crawls behind your eyes. Match day. You don't eat. You're offered a thin piece of bread, but your stomach knots at the sight. Someone hands you water. You take 2 sips and promptly spill half on your already damp tunic. Relax, says Rufio as you pace. The worst part is the waiting. Then, thoughtfully, and the bleeding. And the part where you can hear your own bones cracking. But mostly the waiting. You don't laugh. You're ushered into the prep room, where your armour, such as it is waiting. You strap on your mismatched greaves, adjust the lopsided breastplate, slide your fingers under the helmet's rim and wince as it scrapes your scalp. And there it is again, your shield. Still laughably small, still probably better suited for catching grapes than deflecting blows. The gate opens. The roar of the crowd slams into you like a wave. You walk out under the blinding sun into a coliseum packed with thousands. They're shouting, throwing petals, bread crusts, and the occasional coin. Above them, in shaded balconies, the wealthy recline and sip watered wine. You don't belong here, but you're here. The announcer bellows, "Bologna Minor, the Maiden of Mars, faces her first challenge." People cheer. Someone boos. You spot a handmade banner that simply says, "Kick her," points for directness. And then, across the arena, your opponent steps out. He's lean, quick-looking, armed with a trident and a net, a Retiarius. You recognise the gear from practice scrolls and shouted lectures. These guys are fast, clever, tricky. They use range and speed instead of brute force. Your brain whispers, you don't stand a chance. He sees you, smirks, swings the net like he's testing wind direction. The trident gleams in the sunlight. "Try not to blink," he calls across the sand. "You'll miss the part where I win." charming. The crowd laughs, and just like that, it begins. He moves first, always the retiarius. A swipe of the net. You duck. He pivots, fast, like a dancer in leather sandals. You raise your sword, block barely. The impact jolts up your arm. Your instincts scream, run, but you don't, because you trained for this. Sort of. He swings the net again, and this time it catches your tiny shield. Instinct kicks in, you twist and yank. The shield tears loose, spinning into the sand like a discus. The crowd cheers at the sheer spectacle of your ridiculous defence now lying useless 10 feet away. You're on your own now. The next few moments blur. Trident jabs, your clumsy dodges, the scrape of sand against your knees. You land a single hit, grazing his thigh. He hisses, not in pain, in annoyance. You're sweating, breathing like a bellows, and he's still toying with you. Now here's your historical fact. Retiari were considered less manly by Roman standards. No helmet, no shield, lots of movement. But they were crowd favourites, because when they won, it was skill, and when they lost, it was usually bloody. He lunges. You duck, swing low, hit his calf. A real hit this time. He stumbles and the crowd gasps. You're not dead yet. He pulls back, reassessing you. His grin fades slightly. Good. Then, you try something stupid. You remember a trick from a training match. A sudden rush forward, rolling under the net. You try it. For a heartbeat it works. You're under him, sword raised, but the ground is slick. Some poor soul's leftover blood. Your ankle slips. You collapse. He doesn't miss. His trident slams down, not your chest, thank the gods, but your upper arm. A glancing blow. The pain is sharp, burning. You roll away, screaming inside your helmet. The crowd loves it. You scramble to your feet, panting, bleeding, shaking. He circles you again. You die slow, he mutters. Good, you spit. Makes the day longer. You lunge. He parries. You twist. His net wraps your sword. You wrench back with everything you have, and the sword tears free, tangled but not lost. The match drags on. You're both bleeding now. Your vision starts to blur. Your left arm barely responds, but he's breathing harder too. You see sweat drip down his brow. And then, luck. He steps wrong. Sand gives way, just slightly. You jab. A desperate, crooked stab, and you hit. The blade sinks into his side. He drops the net, doubles over. The crowd roars. He falls. You step back, sword shaking in your grip. The announcer bellows, "She stands!" The arena waits. Now comes the polis verso, the infamous thumb moment. The crowd decides if he lives or dies. You watch as Flavius leans over the edge of his private balcony, rubbing his chin. The thumb moves. Down. You're expected to finish it. You hesitate. You see the retiarius, clutching his side, eyes wide. Not with fear, with understanding. Like he knows what this is, how it ends. You raise your sword, and do it. Quick. Brutal. The blade slips between ribs. He exhales once, softly. It's over. The crowd explodes. Coins rain down. You feel none of it. You're shaking, covered in blood that's not yours. Maybe some that is. You're pulled from the sand, hauled away, healed by a woman who smells like onions and burnt wool. Your wound is wrapped in linen. You're told to lie down. You do. Hours pass. Later that night, Vibia sits beside you. You won, she says. Barely. Barely counts. You stare at the ceiling, remembering his face. Does it get easier? No, she says, but you get better at pretending. You don't sleep much after your first kill. Every time you close your eyes, you see the retiarius falling, his side torn open, his expression not angry, not scared, just tired. You replay it all over again. The mist strikes, the roll that failed, the sound your sword made when it hit something solid, like a wet drum. But in the ludus, there's no time for grief, no time for guilt. Only one response when you wake up with that image burned into your skull. Get up anyway, because survival doesn't guarantee safety. If anything, it puts a target on your back. The others look at you differently now, not like a joke, not like a novelty. Now you're a threat. Even Marcus is grinning like he just found gold in the latrine. Bellona Minor, he crows. Crowd loves her. Might not even die next week. Flavius shows up, of course. all smug satisfaction and grape-stained fingers. He congratulates you like he personally trained your sword arm. Knew you had it, he says. Didn't I say she had it? Like an exotic little wasp. He's already arranging your next match. Bigger audience, higher bets, stronger opponent. Because in the arena, survival isn't the end of a story. It's the start of someone else's gamble. Welcome to the bloody politics of gladiatorial fame. Here's today's hard truth. You don't control your future. The powerful men in togas do. The ones sitting comfortably above you, placing bets with coins they'll forget by morning. To them, you are part athlete, part investment, part toy. They meet behind closed doors, sipping watered wine, discussing your stats like you're a racing chariot, how many strikes you land, how many you take, how long you last before falling. They argue over who gets to own your next appearance, because you, my friend, are a hot commodity now, and don't get too cosy. Politics in Rome is a blood sport all its own. If your sponsor offends the wrong senator, you disappear. If your popularity outshines the emperor's pet gladiator, you disappear faster. One scholar put it well. The arena was less about fighting and more about managing attention. Historians still argue whether gladiators truly fought to win, or if outcomes were quietly guided to protect political interests. After all, it's bad PR if a senator's best fighter dies to a nobody in a purple-plumed helmet. You're that nobody, so now you've got eyes on you. Some from the crowd, some from rivals, some from people who don't want you winning again. The next morning you're pulled aside by a man you don't know. Expensive sandals, ring-heavy hands. He smells like honey and power. He slips you a small scroll. Just a suggestion, he says. Lose next time. Dramatically. A good fall can be more valuable than a messy win. You blink. Are you threatening me? No, he smiles. I'm giving you options. The scroll contains instructions. Lose to a specific opponent. Make it look convincing. Don't die, just fall well. You know what this is. It's fixing. Fight rigging. Just like the veterans whispered about. The Roman equivalent of backstage drama and backroom deals. You crumple the scroll, but your hands are sweating. Because now you're not just worried about fighting well, you're worried about surviving the politics behind the fight. Let's not forget, gladiators were expensive. Training them cost money. Feeding them barely cost money. Dead fighters meant wasted investments. So yes, sometimes fights were arranged. Not always, but often enough that rumours spread faster than torchlight. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some matches were fixed with a clever system of signals. A tilt of the helmet, a flick of the wrist. Even the polis verso, the thumbs up down, was sometimes prearranged, and if the crowd got too rowdy, the emperor might overrule everything just to stay popular. You think of your last match, the Retiarius, that flicker of understanding in his eyes. Had he been told to lose? Had you interrupted a plan by surviving? It makes your head spin. Back in the Ludus, you're sparring with Vibia. Her strikes are faster today, sharper, less patient. You're holding back, she says, blocking your lunge. I'm thinking. That'll get you killed, you pause. What if they want me to lose? She shrugs. Lose or win. Just don't die stupid. That night there's a feast in the dining hall. Well, a feast by gladiator standards. It means slightly less gruel and slightly more boiled meat. You nibble at it while eavesdropping. One man jokes, if I win next week, I'm demanding an extra blanket. Another replies, win? I've seen turtles move faster than you. Everyone laughs, but underneath it is the same tension you feel. No one knows what tomorrow holds. One bad match, one bad decision, and it's all over. Rufio sits beside you. They tried to fix one of my matches once, he says low. Told me to drop my shield. Look clumsy. I didn't. What happened? He lifts his tunic to show a scar that runs from hip to knee. They made it real. It's a warning. Not from Rufio, but from the system itself. You climb to the rooftop of the barracks late that night. The stars are out, though half hidden behind the haze of cook fires and dust. You think about the game being played above your head. The bets, the rivalries, the whispered threats in alleyways. You think about the Retiarius again, and the way you were congratulated like you'd won a game instead of taken a life. You know now, winning doesn't mean freedom. It just means they double the stakes. A breeze stirs the edge of your tunic. Somewhere a lion roars from its cage. You whisper to the stars, "If I survive this, I want it to mean something." The stars don't answer, but they keep watching, just like Rome. You wake up to find your face scratched into the wall. No joke, someone's carved a crude image of your helmet, complete with your ridiculous feather plume, and scrawled Bellona Minor beneath it in jagged letters. The likeness isn't exactly flattering. You look a bit like a smug chicken. But still, someone cared enough to immortalise your face with a chunk of charcoal and 5 minutes of stolen privacy. You're famous. Kind of. You stare at it for a moment, unsure whether to laugh or worry. Word is spreading. You've won a real match. You made a crowd roar. You've got blood under your nails and a sponsor who's bragging about you to every senator who'll listen. That's all it takes. The other fighters start whispering your name in the mornings, sometimes with respect, sometimes with suspicion. You've become a symbol, and symbols don't get to rest. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Some gladiators were celebrities. Their names were etched into lamps, painted on walls and scribbled into schoolboy graffiti. Even women weren't immune to fame's sticky touch. There's a surviving carving from Halicarnassus that shows 2 female gladiators, Amazonia and Acilia, facing off, both marked as Missy, released, meaning they both survived and earned their freedom. Possibly. You've yet to reach those heights. Still, the signs are there. Your face appears in a stall near the forum, painted on a piece of pottery. "Fighting Fury," it says in bright red letters, misspelling your name. You're wearing a tunic, holding a trident you've never touched. You don't even get royalties. Later, someone calls out Bellona Minor as you pass a butcher's stall. You look over. It's a kid, no older than 10, grinning like he's seen a living statue. He gives you a fig. Your heart nearly breaks. But fame is fickle. Just as quickly as you rise, the shadows thicken. Someone sharpens their blade a little longer when you walk into the training yard. You catch glances. Hear your name hissed between practice swings. Vibia warns you in a whisper. You get popular. Someone always wants to end the story. And not just fighters. There's another force lurking now. The historians. You've started noticing scribes in the audience during your fights. Cloaked figures with wax tablets, scribbling furiously as you move. Who are they? No idea. But one thing's clear. They're recording something. And here's the thing. Historians aren't objective. They're just as biased, political and dramatic as the rest of Rome. What gets written down depends on who's paying. What gets remembered depends on who wins. And here's today's scholarly debate. Historians still argue whether female gladiators were common or extremely rare. Some say they were stage props, only trotted out during festivals. Others believe they were more widespread, just ignored or erased by male-centric record keepers. The truth, as always, is probably somewhere in the middle. So even if you live, even if you win 10 matches, become a crowd darling, get your name chanted from the rooftops, you still might vanish from history, not because you weren't good, but because someone decided your story wasn't convenient. The truth gets rewritten, women get footnoted, and you, if you're lucky, become a half-remembered carving in a dusty museum. Back in the Ludus, your fame brings changes. You're given slightly better food, slightly cleaner water. Your armour is polished now, though the dents are still there. Trophies of survival. Flavius throws you a party. That sounds better than it is. It's just a back room in a villa where senators drink flat wine and ask you to show off your sword stance. You stand in a corner for most of it, while wealthy men debate whether gladiators feel fear like normal people. One insists you've been conditioned. Another says, they don't count as real soldiers anyway. You could stab them, of course, but instead you smile, pretend you're not listening, and plot your escape in imaginary blueprints on the floor. One noblewoman approaches you with a fan and a sharp eye. "Do you enjoy it?" she asks. You blink. Enjoy what? Fighting, the attention, the fame. You don't answer right away, because you're not sure. Do you enjoy not being invisible? Sometimes. Do you enjoy the moment when your opponent hesitates? Definitely. But do you enjoy killing, losing control, being cheered by strangers who'll forget you by lunch? No? She smiles knowingly. Thought not. Then she leans close. But you'll keep doing it, because the only thing harder than being a fighter, she fans herself again, is being a nobody. She leaves you with that. The next day, Someone has added to your wall carving. Now there's a sword beneath your chin. A warning? A compliment? Hard to tell. That afternoon, you're summoned to speak with the editor, the official who oversees arena matches. He's a severe man with ink-stained fingers and a permanent frown. He doesn't ask if you're ready. He tells you your next match is in 2 days. Bigger crowd, double sponsor pay. You'll be fighting another woman this time, he says. You blink. Another gladiatrix? He nods. Imported from the east. Fast, tall, popular. You almost laugh. Popular? You barely exist in the scrolls and now there's competition for attention? Part of you is excited, and another part trembles. That night you find Vibia in the yard. You ask her if she's ever fought another woman. She nods slowly. Once. They made us wear masks so the crowd couldn't tell. Said it was more mysterious that way. Who won? She shrugs. They did. You tilt your head. The one's watching. You realise then that no matter how many matches you win, no matter how many walls you get scratched onto, you'll never be in control of the story. But maybe, just maybe, you can leave behind enough pieces that someone, centuries from now, will try to puzzle it all back together. Even if they don't get it right. Even if they say, we're not sure she even existed. You'll know you did. You were here, and you mattered. 2 days pass like a countdown ticking inside your chest. The arena looms again, and this time it's not for practice, not for posing, not even for show. You're about to face someone who's trained like you, suffered like you, and maybe, just maybe, wants this win even more than you do. Your opponent's name is Zzzistory. You've heard whispers. The Eastern Blade, some call her, the Ghost. She's taller than most men and moves like smoke. No one here's seen her fight yet, but the guards flinch when they say her name. That's a sign. She arrives the night before your match, escorted by handlers with swords and sour expressions. She wears no armour, just a thin tunic and a long scar across her collarbone like a necklace made of survival. You catch a glimpse of her in the moonlight as she sharpens her blade with a practised flick of her wrist. She doesn't look at you, but you feel it. That awareness. That silent tension only two people destined to try and kill each other can share. You sleep badly, haunted by dreams of cracked sand, bleeding statues, and spectators whose faces melt into blank stone masks. Morning comes fast. You eat half a date and some barley mush, then vomit it up from the nerves. Classic pre-fight breakfast. Even Rufio, who usually greets match day with dark humour, gives you a silent nod and a pat on the shoulder. The prep room is cooler than usual. Maybe it's the wind, or maybe it's just the weight of what's coming. Vibia helps tie your greaves. Doesn't say much. Doesn't need to. You're handed a sword that's seen better centuries, and a helmet with a fresh strap. Someone finally fixed it. Maybe Flavius is trying to protect his investment. Or maybe he wants you to look good before you die. The gate creaks open. The crowd is louder today. Bigger, louder, richer. They've dressed for the event. Tassels, feathers, tunics dyed in imported indigos and bright reds. You glimpse senators and their families, some foreign dignitaries, and there, under a golden awning, sits Flavius, sipping wine and fanning himself like he's watching a puppet show. Then comes the other gate. Zzzistory steps into the light, and the arena falls quiet for a breath. She doesn't wear a helmet. That alone sends a ripple through the stands. Her hair is tied back in a knot, her eyes focused, unblinking. She's armed with 2 short swords, Gladius Gemini, a dual-wielding fighter, dangerous, dazzling, deadly. You raise your blade, adjusting your grip. Your fingers are slick. You dig them into the worn leather just to feel real. The horn sounds, and she charges. Not a slow, theatrical saunter. No, she flies. Her first strike comes fast, right to your ribs. You deflect, barely, stagger backward, almost trip on your own feet. She's pressing again. Left blade, right, knee, elbow. She's not just fighting, she's dancing. You try to counter. Your swing is clean but wide. She ducks under it and slashes your thigh. A shallow cut, but it stings like fire. The crowd gasps. You hear your name shouted, maybe a few cheers, but mostly they're watching her. She's the spectacle now. You realise something sickening. You're not just the underdog, you're the stepping stone. The crowd favourite has shifted. The script has flipped. You grit your teeth and push forward. You land a strike to her shoulder. She flinches. Finally. You press your advantage, but she slides sideways, spins, and smacks the flat of her blade against your helmet. You see stars. You go down hard. Sand in your mouth, blood in your nose, and footsteps behind you. You roll just in time, her sword slicing the space your neck was in a heartbeat ago. You scramble up. Your side burns. Your head throbs. You're not winning. Yet. Now for your quirky tidbit. Some gladiators studied mythic duels to inspire their fighting styles. There's even evidence that certain moves were named after gods or legends. The Mars thrust, the Minerva parry, and, your personal favourite, the Hercules flop, which may have just been a fancy name for falling on purpose. And here you are, thinking about myths while trying not to get carved open like a roast boar. You fake a stumble, Hercules flop it is, and catch Arizza's overextended arm. With a grunt, you twist, slam her to the ground, sword at her throat. The crowd rises. Then, silence. You both freeze. Your blade is poised. Her eyes locked on yours. Not angry, not pleading, just calm. She whispers something you don't catch. And then, she closes her eyes. The choice is yours. The editor stands, the polis verso again. This time it hovers. He looks to the crowd. They hesitate. Some shout for mercy. Some call for blood. Some don't care at all. They just want their bread and drama. You lower your sword. You won't kill her. You step back. The crowd erupts. Some boo. Others cheer. Flavius leaps to his feet, red in the face, spitting wine. But the editor, maybe seeing a political benefit or just not wanting to waste two useful fighters, nods once. Arizza lives. So do you. You're pulled off the sand, cleaned up, bandaged, scolded. You never ignore the signal, Marcus hisses. You could have ruined the whole show. But the crowd's reaction is enough for now. They liked it. They like you again. And Arizza, she finds you that night, hands you one of her blades. You earned it, she says. Next time you finish it. You take it. It's heavier than it looks. You stare at the curved metal, stained but sharp, and realise something. Your fame is fragile. Your power, even more so. You're not just a gladiator anymore. You're a story. And stories either get written or buried. You don't return to the training yard for 2 days. Your wounds are superficial, nothing compared to the bruises blooming under your ribs, but Flavius insists you rest the face. Because what's a crowd pleaser without the right expression? What's a show if its star limps? So you spend the time healing, thinking, watching. Arizza moves like a phantom through the ludus now. No one dares challenge her, not even the veterans. You've nodded at each other since the match once or twice. Nothing more. You share something wordless now, like co-authors of a story no one else was supposed to read. On the third morning, Marcus finds you alone, sharpening your blade. You're in the next games, he says. You sigh. Already? He grins. One last match. Big one. Festival of Vulcan. You close the show. You pause. Last. He shrugs. For me. Maybe for you. There's something in his tone you don't like. But he walks away before you can ask. Later that day, a servant leaves a new tunic at your door. White with red trim. Pure spectacle. It smells like cloves and ambition. Your name is scratched into more walls now. Crudely drawn, misspelled, and sometimes paired with Arizza's in graffiti battles posed like romances or rivalries. Whatever stirs the crowd. Bellona Minor, the smoke dancer, the girl who didn't kill. Your reputation is complicated. That evening, Flavius holds a pre-fight dinner. This time, you're invited as a guest, not a curiosity. The guests include men you've seen bet thousands of denarii on horses, on dice, on each other. One offers you wine. Another asks if you might fight in Carthage someday. You fake a polite smile. Try not to think about how many of them know your kill count better than your name. Here's your historical fact of the night. There were female gladiators who achieved the local fame, albeit briefly. Some even had patrons, fan clubs, and freedom contracts waiting if they won enough matches. But most disappeared without a trace. Their bones were tossed into mass graves, their names left off scrolls, their stories overwritten by louder men. Back in the Ludus, you sit on the floor with a cup of stale wine and your borrowed sword. The blade Arisa gave you still smells faintly of ash and old sweat. It doesn't gleam, but it feels right in your hand, balanced, trusted. You remember the scroll, the one asking you to take a fall. You burned it. Tomorrow there will be no scripts, just blood, dust, and instinct. Match day again. You've stopped counting how many. The arena looks different in the morning haze. The sand glows gold. The stands are already half full. Flower petals drift in the air. Somewhere a flute plays. Almost gentle. You're told your opponent will be a Secutor, a classic heavily armoured male fighter. Big, slow, relentless. The traditional counter to your nimble style. The irony hits you. They've set you up for failure. This is your send-off. One last dazzling loss for the audience to feast on. Maybe a noble death. Maybe a messy one. Either way, it wraps up the story arc. But you're not a story. You're a survivor. You take the field to mild applause. The crowd knows you. Some cheer. Others watch warily. Then your opponent steps out. He's enormous. His armour gleams. His helmet has no eye holes. Just 2 small slits and a mouth grill like a bronze monster. He raises his sword. A gladius. Thick. Heavy. The horn sounds. You wait. He charges. You sidestep. Barely. Your smaller frame weaves, spins, dances. You get in 2 quick hits to his thigh and side. He roars, swings, misses. You duck. He slams into the wall with a grunt. The crowd roars. You press your advantage, jab, dodge, cut. He bleeds now, but not enough. Then, disaster. Your foot slips, just like last time, just like the Rutarius fight. Your ankle twists. You fall hard. He's on you, sword raised, and then you remember something from your very first week. A stupid offhand comment from Vibia. If you're on the ground, stab up. Most men forget to protect the groin. You stab up, he drops. Screaming, the crowd gasps. You roll away, clutching your side, and crawl to your sword. He's not dead, but he's done. You stand. The editor pauses, confused, then gestures. You don't even wait. You raise your blade, not to kill, but to salute, to end it with some grace. The crowd erupts. They love it. You stagger off the sand, bleeding but alive. Again, and as you pass the gate, a woman stops you. She's dressed plainly. No jewels, no fan, just parchment. "I'm a scribe," she says. "Can I record your name?" You stare at her. "You're asking?" She nods. You whisper it. "Not Bellona Minor. Your real name." She smiles and writes it down. Maybe it will end up in a scroll no one reads. Maybe it will gather dust in a library. Maybe it'll be burned in the next invasion. But still, it exists. And now, as the torches gutter and the city quiets, let the sounds of Rome soften into a whisper. You lie in your cell, not cold for once, not alone, not nameless. The sand has settled. The blood has dried. The roar of the crowd lingers only in memory now, distant and dreamlike. Outside, a breeze stirs the ivy. A cat yowls in the distance. The moon paints pale stripes across the stone floor. You exhale slowly. The ache in your limbs a reminder. You lived. You endured. You weren't meant to, but you did. The future is uncertain. Maybe there will be more fights. Maybe freedom. Maybe nothing. But in this moment, in this breath, you are real. You have weight. You've carved yourself into a history that never wanted to keep you. And somehow, you made it stick. You remember the faces, Ariza's quiet strength, Rufio's worn smile, Vibia's gravelly laugh, the blood, the dust, the dizzying mix of pain and applause, and somehow, in the middle of all of it, you. Let the noise fade. Let the torches go out. You're more than the fight. You're the story that someone someday will stumble across and wonder who you were. Close your eyes. Breathe. You're safe now.